And let me know when we're good to go.
We are.
Hey guys, great that you made it out today, and glad to be back after a little bit of downtime here. Had to deal with my mom's funeral. That was a sad occasion, but it was a good funeral. Thrilled that it was as good as it was, and sad that it was what it was, but she had a great life. She was just days away from turning 96. So it's a solid remembrance, and great people showed up to remember her. So with that in the past, moving forward, and we have got a lot more mind model mysteries to unravel here. So it's fun stuff with mind models again. So the big difference here between mind models and mindset is mind models focus on behaviors and mindset focuses on beliefs. We are going to deal with beliefs, but we're going today with our sort of 10-part series, as it were, 10 beliefs that can make anyone highly successful. But we're going to really focus in on these top 10 beliefs that successful people really do believe, but they empower their beliefs with behaviors. And that's the magic that I want to bring to you guys today, is how this is going to tie together, because it's not commonly taught out there, number one, and it's not commonly understood, but it is absolutely verifiable that everybody who builds beliefs also has to build behaviors. And the quality of the behaviors that you attach to whatever it is that you believe determines the quality of your effectiveness in life. So if you want to be highly effective, you need some key beliefs. You need core beliefs that actually work, but you need the behaviors that tie in with that. And that's what I've been trying to tell people for well over 35 years. Anyway. Okay, with that said and done, any other high points? What else are we supposed to hit before we dive into this, Trevor?
Sure. So many of you have joined us before, but if you haven't, or if you've been with us for a little while and you're getting lots of value out of these webinars, we do definitely recommend that you check out Blair's program, How to Rewire Your Mind for Wealth. You can check that out at rewiringthemind.com. We have redone that website, so it's pretty straightforward. Just go to rewiringthemind.com and you can purchase the product from there. There's over 15 hours of video training where Blair goes through mind models, as well as over a 200-page workbook in there as well. The cost is $497, and we have a 30-day money-back guarantee. So for any reason you're not happy with the purchase, or it doesn't work for you, or it just isn't your cup of tea, no questions asked. We'll give you guys a refund within the 30 days there. But we've been getting great feedback on it. And if you guys are liking these, you'll like that even more. So you can check that out at rewiringthemind.com. The only other thing I will mention is we also unraveled or revealed an affiliate program as well. So if you've bought the product and you like the product, or if you'd like to help us promote it, on that website, rewiringthemind.com, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find a little button that says affiliates, and you can actually sign up to be an affiliate for the program, where we're paying out 30% commissions at this time. So check it out, and let us know if you have any feedback or questions.
Super. Thanks so much for that. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Completely left my mind. So glad I asked you. Otherwise... I knew I was supposed to do something else, and that was part of it. But anyway, you did it.
We got it done. We got it done.
You got a good job. Like, good job. Well done. Well done. Okay. So we got an interesting, really interesting one today. You know what? It's about time. Literally about time. Not it's about time we got onto this thing, but no, it's about time. And time, people confuse. Actually, I should ask you guys some questions. So, Jennifer, what do you think about time? What is time and life to you? How do you think about time and life and success and change?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It's a big one. It's deep. This is
That's
not,
so
this is,
deep.
this is deep.
Well, I of course think that there's not enough time in one lifetime to do and experience everything that I want to.
Right.
And that change, I don't, no, I wouldn't say that what I want to experience changes on a regular basis, but it kind of does depending on what it is that I've been studying or working on previously. But my probably biggest weakness is wasting time. I
Yep.
definitely do a lot of that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Some of that is going to be addressed today, but there are other mind models that we're going to go into and beliefs that we're going to tie into the mind models in other like additional series here, because these are 10 beliefs, and some of that is going to be addressed more specifically down the road a little bit, but some of this stuff we're going to get into right shortly. John, your thoughts of time and how time impacts you. And then Colin, guess what? You're up last here.
Yay.
And no, actually, I'm going to pick on Trevor today too, because this is a good one for you too. Damn, I just saw the oh shit smile.
Well, wow. So time is one of the things that we use to measure and organize, structure our experience. So we've got this perceptions of past and future and now, and I know you've talked about all that, but there's a lot of I guess philosophical questions about whether time really exists or not, and I don't know if we're going there or not, but
no, we're not. We're going to more practical application of it. And one of the key things that you did do there is you did talk about, or you did mention the word perceptions of time. So, yeah. Sorry, Jamie, I know you wanted to jump on the call here, but she's got her hand up. We got our three here. Got to be earlier. Early bird catches a worm, as they say. So anyway, again, for yourself, Colin.
I think with me, I use time as a great tool to have people look at the way they suffer, and that we all suffer differently. When you relate it to time, it makes sense to people. When say, for example, I'll ask three people, how long will they suffer for before they're back to normality?
Right.
And they all have different times. One says a month, one says 2, one says a week. Well, if I was to look at what I think and deem as the more successful person, it would be, well, guess what? I have to be back to normality tomorrow. And if I relate that suffering to time and I ask them who they'd like to be, they say usually the person that's back to normality tomorrow. And it just makes sense to me in that way, that time can relate to so many things in our lives. And if we really cherish and look at time the way I think we should, it just makes life so much easier.
I'm going to be building on that concept and tie that in with perception as well, because time has got a lot to do with how we shift ourselves and how we suffer or don't suffer or move forward or stay stuck, whatever it is. Okay. And Trevor, you have the final word before we go forward.
Sure. Yeah. I'm struggling on what to say since I know the direction that you're going to go with it.
That's okay. No, just share what you want.
I've had time be both my friend and an enemy, depending on how I manage it. It's something that I still do struggle with, managing my time. I saw that Tammy mentioned a comment in there as well. I can relate with that. So yeah, I know it's something that I'm working on, but I've also seen that it can really work for you if you manage it effectively. I've also seen how in grieving or something like that having time can make a difference, or in conflict, leaving space and time can also be effective, but it can also be the exact opposite. So it really depends on how you manage it and what you actually do, not so much the time itself.
There are so many topics in this area, and like you hit on another one here with time management, and as what Tammy talked about in the chat there, I have such a hard time managing time. I totally get that. The problem is we've got this whole thing about how we should manage time. But what if we actually cannot manage time, but we can only manage our behaviors? And by managing our behaviors, we can impact the quality of our behavior, the quality of our life, and the things that happen to us. And that gives us the illusion of managing time. But until we start recognizing that it's our behaviors that have to change, not how we manage this ethereal thing called time, this perceptual thing that is just in people's minds, you can't manage it. And the key piece here is that time has got nothing to do with change. And how we change our lives is so instrumental in everything that happens to us, in the quality of our life, in how we come back. Well, you referred to suffering. You know, I mean, I dealt with my mom's funeral this last week, and you know, that is definitely suffering. Dealing with it, coping with it, expressing the feelings from that moment in time and at the moment of the funeral was extremely important for me. The key element of that was to express it then and to behave with that intention, and not hold it in, not hold it back, not block it, but express what needed to be expressed in the moment. And in that moment, you can then go ahead. But if you take that same model and say, okay, when I want to be successful, what if I deal with my behavior and I do the things that I need to do in that moment in time, moving forward, being deliberate, being effective, being focused, being intentional? What happens to me as a result is deliberate actions have everything to do with change. And by being deliberate in my actions, I can transform myself virtually instantly. Colin, was that a question or an aha?
Yeah, it was. I forgot about the most important thing is how people relate to time and suffering, is that it's the change occurs when they evaluate in self, and they say to themselves, as of right now, tomorrow morning, say for example, if that's who they choose to be, I'm not going to suffer anymore. And that's changing the way they're thinking and changing the way they're behaving.
Yeah, it's going to be modified a little bit because I'm not going to be suffering anymore. Most people can't quite do that. Some people can, but most people can't quite make that arbitrary shift. But what they have to do is, most people, if they can express that emotion and have it in that moment, more or less evaluate that emotional intensity at that point in time, and you bring up another one of the key concepts that we drive in mind models, and that's the mind model of evaluation versus judgment. When I started by expressing my feelings, and I'll just use what's incredibly in front of me still, or actually recently behind me, and that is my mom's funeral. That whole element of being able to move away and move past that, and figuring out what's appropriate, what's effective. And the difference between effective and appropriate actually has to be thought about to some degree, because they're not always the same thing. And frequently when people find out, well, that's appropriate, they frequently go into judgment and go into, well, that's not appropriate. The opposite of that is not appropriate, but that's not necessarily the case. And that's one of the things that I find to be quite a breakthrough for me. Now, it also leverages me when I'm in business and when I'm taking a look at what I'm trying to get accomplished and to be successful. What are those things that I need to do, and what actions do I need to deliberately take so that I can take a conscious, deliberate actions that turn behaviors, actually manufacture new behaviors into successful beliefs. So what do I do to take a behavior, a new behavior, and say, okay, I am crying at my mom's funeral. I'm expressing my grief. I'm doing that. This is appropriate. This is effective. But at the same moment in time, I'm sharing moments of my mom's history that has touched the audience and touched me and created a wonderful ability to express the pain, the hurt, the laughter, the fun, the difference in the moment. Now, stop for just 1 second here. I know this is a bit of a leap from my mom's funeral to business. But if you think about it, how do you know when you're successful? How do you know when you've grieved enough? Well, what's the difference? Because both are sort of like, how do you know when you've grieved enough? People don't look at it the same way, yet the behaviors are almost identical if you look at it, because both of them are determined by how you feel. So this feeling base has to be in there, and you've got to connect with how you feel and what you feel in order to go, okay, I'm feeling like I'm venting, I'm sharing, I've got all this stuff off my chest, it's working. Now, what happens when I am in a business scenario and I take a look at this and I say, okay, am I working effectively right now? Like, I'm going to bring up the ones that you guys shared a bit of, my time management effective? And I go, hold it, it's not time management, it's behavior management, like I shared before. So what in my behaviors do I need to do right now so that I can evaluate this 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes from now and go, this was more than likely going to be highly or at least generally effective? And if you answer that question, you start forming an idea in your mind, almost like a hypothesis of how to behave. And what are those behaviors that I need to do in order to be effective in my next 30-minute chunk of time? Well, for you, John, it's 15 minutes, but sorry. For those of you that haven't been on, we taught one about chunking down time and managing time. And John came across this time chunk of 15 minutes that really does work for him. So that's super. But, in whatever time chunk it is, and then you evaluate it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to pick on you right now, John, and go back and ask you to reshare some of that. What did you find when you started evaluating in 15-minute chunks? What did you notice?
It reduced my sense of overwhelm. I'm trying to juggle a lot of different priorities, and one of the challenges that I face is prioritizing. And so by breaking into chunks, I was able to kind of shift around, touch more things, and still feel like I was successful and effective at moving the needle on multiple things. And also,
can I ask you a quick question here?
Okay.
So in that 15-minute chunk, how many things did you actually focus on most of the time?
Most of the time, just one.
Exactly. And that's the thing about time blocking or chunking up your time, is you give yourself the ability to de-stress about everything and just focus on one thing during that time and get clear on that one specific action that you need to do. And that becomes that whole focal point of where we go. And when we take a look at time that way, how easy was it to make change happen? Difficult or hard?
Oh, it was much easier. It was much easier. But and there was one other piece to that as you're talking about that, which was the realization that tiny steps are still progress. You know, that it's okay to do something for 15 minutes and then evaluate that rather than, you know, I have to have this massive result.
Exactly. And incremental improvement is still improvement. It may not be complete, like task completed, done. It's wonderful, you know, hurrah, we're completed, but it is incremental improvement and we're moving towards the direction that we're going. So how long does it take for you to make change happen? So it's actually, yes. Tomato time. Yeah, I use a tomato timer. Wendy just said, yes. Yeah, Tammy needs to start 15. Yeah, it's an awfully good one, Tammy. Chunking down into 15 to 20 minute top chunks, while 15 to 30 minutes, somewhere in that range. Some people can do it for an hour, but most people find, you know, sort of shorter chunks more effective. So getting back to the question here, how long does it take for change to happen? Okay, Colin. Well, I'll pop over the call.
Yeah, pick on somebody else.
Yeah.
Right now, bam, done, changed.
Yep. Jennifer, what do you think? How long does it take for change to happen?
Well, I think that it kind of depends on what it is that I'm changing. If it's an old habit that I've been doing forever, I think that it's like the decision to change is instant, but the actual long-term change will take longer than if it's something that I'm newly doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'd like you to evaluate how you're thinking about that.
Okay.
So, because it seems to me that you're blending an evaluation and a judgment. Okay, and you know the difference, right? Remember way back when evaluations are always externally verifiable. Judgment is only internally verifiable.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you notice that some of your language was only internally verifiable? It was only your perception. It couldn't be determined externally. Did you notice that?
Do all of my changes need to be externally verifiable? Wouldn't that be an internal thing?
They will all be externally verifiable if they're actual changes.
Okay.
Because even if you have psychological changes to yourself, your behaviors will change and your beliefs will change as well. All of those too, especially the behaviors, are 100% externally verifiable.
Okay, so
but if you only think about making a change, and you think you've made a change, but you're the only person that can see the change because you're just looking at yourself internally, is it really a change? Or have you just played a head game with yourself?
To follow up then with another question, is it fair to then say that people will notice that change immediately? Does change happen once it's noticed externally, or once you've made the decision?
It depends on how effective your behavior is that reflects that change. So, and that's really the key to the behavior piece of this. Because if you say, okay, let's use a really graphic example. So I'm a guy who goes around beating up people on a daily basis. And I finally say, okay, I'm done with being an asshole. I'm not going to beat up people anymore. So now I walk around, and instead of punching people out, I'm only slapping people and pushing them out of the way. Do you think people are going to notice that I've stopped beating up people immediately?
No.
No, because my behavior really isn't in complete alignment with what I'm telling myself in my head that I'm attempting to do. I'm trying to be a nice guy. I'm a better guy than I was, the day before. But hey, am I a nice guy by most people's standards? No, just the different form of an asshole. That's it. That's all. Yes, it's still a jerk, just a different kind of jerk. That's about it. So we want to adjust this so that the behaviors are externally verifiable, and that external verifiability of this actually makes it effective, and we can get feedback on how effective our behaviors actually are. Because if we can't receive feedback on them, there are opinions about how we see ourselves. They're not necessarily even functional, but if we tell ourselves we're a kind person and you still go around beating people up, it doesn't matter much. It's a contradiction, and you're living this contradiction. And there's other parts of you that actually haven't been dealt with. And I'm going to drop the extreme thing and start going into successful behaviors and start focusing in on, so if I'm doing things on a daily basis that are causing me to delay myself from doing the things that I know I need to do in work and business and whatever, and I don't get to them, and I don't have something else more important in life that's stopping me, like A, I'm not sick, and B, I didn't have to deal with the death of my mother, and other realities like that, then if I have those things that are no longer in the way, then hey, I should be able to move forward incrementally. And how long does it take me to deal with this? Well, change, if I take a look at my behavior and I go, I know that I'm not, and I'm going to pop back here momentarily for the grieving of my mom. I know I'm not done grieving my mom. I know that just isn't going to go away instantaneously, but do I believe that I've done a good job of an effective job of moving through that grief and grieving and saying goodbye and moving on? Yes. How come? Because I don't feel a moment by moment burden on myself. Therefore, I don't feel the weight of responsibility of that. It's sort of clearing itself. I've cried, I've shared, I've done those things that I need to do. I feel good about moving on. If I feel like I haven't done everything that I need to do to get my business to that next level, the same thing applies. I feel either I need to do more, or there's something getting in my way. What do I need to change in my behavior? Do I need to take more direct action and get things done so that I can make things done? Do I need to rescale my plan? Am I being overly aggressive? Do I not know how to behave effectively? In other words, if I don't know how to behave effectively, then maybe what I need to do is learn what those next steps actually are. And maybe I'm gapped out in that area, which has been one of my big learning curves over the last few years, because I'm not a marketer, yet I'm going into online marketing. So I got myself into a course. I'm taking education in that area. I'm learning how to go about doing that. I'm incrementally learning how to be more effective in those areas that I know I'm gapped out in this style of business. And I'm doing the things that I can do, like being as consistent as I possibly can be on the webinar here, getting my message out, being consistent, and building a following so that I can share my message with people and continue to build a following so that people know that this is consistent. That is a good, effective business decision to make in this model that I've adopted. How do I know that? Other people have done this model and other people have had it successful. How long does it take? It takes about a year of me being relatively consistent to be able to build up an audience and everything that happens. So we're in still the early stages of it, so that I can time this out and make this happen. But I can start evaluating myself against known standards that are externally verifiable. And I change my behavior in the moment. Time is not required for me to make a change. Time is required for me to learn what to change to, but not to make the change. So education is the key here. And people quite often defer the making the behavior change happen because they're not comfortable with the speed of change. But Colin, you were absolutely right. Change happens like a hot knife through butter. The second that that knife goes through the brick of butter, it's now 2 bricks of butter, and you cannot put it back together again. So it has changed permanently and forever. So it's not the way that it was. So change happens instantaneously. Knowing that, it's about acquiring the behaviors that I need to make effective changes to get myself in the way of success. And that I have to get the idea, the notion that it takes time for me to change. No, it takes time for me to figure out what to change to. It takes no time to make the change. And delaying that is the thing that holds a lot of people back, because they go through education, they don't apply stuff, they wait till the timing's right, till everything's right in their life. My God, I have had so many things that have gone sideways for me in the last 3 weeks. It's not funny, you know, and they're big things too. I don't need to go through them. You guys know them as well as I do. But at the end of the day, you keep on going and you do the things that you know have the highest probability of working. And this is one of them. Being here on the webinar with you guys is one of the main things. And thank you, Dwayne. Missed you too. Yes, Colin.
If I may, not to sound like I'm coming to Jennifer's defense, but I think that people sometimes relate when they're focusing on a result, which is in the near future, and they incrementally have all these little things that they want to do to get there. They don't realize that the movement forward to the next incremental step is change, but they don't relate it to change. They kind of relate it to, well, I'm not changed yet because I haven't got to my results. But in actuality, they're moving in a positive way forward to get to where they want to be or what they want to do.
That's a very good point, because I want to build on what John was saying earlier. That's what was holding John back initially before he started time blocking and chunking his stuff down to 15 minutes. He was getting overwhelmed because he didn't get a result. And we look for a result to prove that changes happened rather than the incremental changes. And when we shift to incremental changes, we can see that we're moving forward and we're not hung up on this whole thing of being so frozen by our belief that we have not changed yet. And that's really that piece, because we have changed. And we've actually, in some cases, changed our behaviors like John did. And you know, your wife was able to see actual physical changes in your mental state. She said you were happier, you were easier to live with, you know, basic things like that. True or true? Am I making this up? Yeah.
No.
I mean, I'm not making this stuff up, but these are the behaviors. And you said earlier, Jennifer, when you shift these beliefs around, do the behaviors actually show up? And the answer is yes. And they don't necessarily show up in every aspect of your life that you think they should. They show up in, hey, I'm happier, I'm less stressed, I'm easier to live with, and all of these other things that go along with it, because how I'm managing myself, how my behaviors are showing up are clearer now than they were before because I chunked this down. I reduced the stress. I see a small movement forward where I didn't see any movement forward before. And when you can see that incremental growth happen, you know you're going in the right direction. And when you know that that's actually happening, life gets simpler. It's just, it gets less confusing, and the speed of change can actually increase because we're not bogged down with overwhelm. Jennifer, make sense or not?
It does, but that still sounds like judgment to me instead of evaluation.
Okay, so talk to me about how this is internally verifiable and not externally verifiable. When John's wife can turn around and say, he's happier, he's more effective, he's less of a pain to live with.
Okay, yeah, in that sense.
It's externally verifiable. When John turns around and says, hey, I go from time blocking of my entire day to 15-minute chunks, and I find that generally I'm working on one specific thing during that 15-minute chunk, and I'm noticing that I'm getting an incremental movement forward. Is that externally verifiable? Or is that a judgment?
Well, that sounds like judgment that then his wife noticing makes it externally verifiable.
Close, but let's take a look at this, how we can verify that. John was actually tracking that himself. Initially, were you not documenting those changes?
Initially, I had it I was tracking in a spreadsheet. I kind of stopped doing that.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I mean, the part here is you build a behavior that was externally verifiable, and you now know that that behavior is highly probably externally verifiable because he's done it before. He actually tracked it. It was externally verifiable. That's what he worked on. It was done. And you could prove it to yourself by doing these externally verifiable chunks of data collection. And then you've developed a habit pattern that you don't need to be doing it for the rest of your life. You do need to know that it is externally verifiable so that you start building the internal and external view of your own behaviors. You know what's internal, you know what's external. And when you get to that point of being able to see and differentiate between internal and external, the judgment starts diminishing. The evaluation starts increasing, and you look for externally verifiable evidence. And some of the things is how do I feel? Do I feel overwhelmed? Is that internally verifiable? Yes. Is it externally verifiable? Yes. Okay, that's the thing. Some of this is blended, absolutely true, but it can't just be oh, of course I'm fine. I'm feeling so much better. You know, come on, guys. I'm good. I'm really good with this, right? I'm excellent. No, that's bullshit. But when you start recognizing it, it really is effective, is what it comes down to. And it becomes more and more effective, and you build on that. Yeah, so, okay. Makes sense? Okay, good. So, what did you pull from that, Jennifer? Yeah, sorry. I can't, I'm looking down at your picture here. So, I mean, you're looking at me, and of course, we have eye contact, right? You're seeing me.
Change is instant, and changing my behaviors in a way to make them externally verifiable helps to show that I've actually changed.
Exactly. So are you still doing a lot of work with broadcasting and TV and acting and stuff like that? Yeah. Movies? Okay. Still a producer doing production?
Producing. I got into stunts this year. No big deal.
Oh.
Nice, yeah, producing is definitely where my heart is.
Nice. Okay, cool. So one of the things that I would suggest is the more that you can verify, and like when you start producing, you look for where things are going, correct? And what needs to be accomplished in timelines.
Yeah.
And so all of that is against the timeline, correct?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, usually. And that timeline is externally verifiable.
Yeah.
So now what you've done there is you've gotten everything that's in there is trackable against that externally against that plan, if you will,
Okay. Yeah.
against that model. So it's that whole piece of that is that trackable piece. And organizing those pieces are the pieces that you need to be able to move forward. Hearing where people are stuck is where they start going internal, and they give you reasons, excuses, rationalizations, and justifications as to why they can't move forward with it. Not getting resourceful means that they're now in a stuck state. They're not in a what or a how, they're in a why, and they're not going to move forward. So your ability to move and keep the production going on schedule becomes incredibly constrained by those persons' beliefs. Getting them resourceful and shifting them into what might you do differently now is the key question to be asking, and getting them so that they can go forward and shift that whole piece on it. Listening to time tense is going to also be a big piece of this. I'm going to share my, I think I'm just going to try the whiteboard here rather than fight with getting everything here. Okay, because can you guys see my whiteboard here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So I'm just going to click on draw and
Oh, actually, all I see is white. Oh,
Yeah.
I see a draw icon now. It might work.
okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, so there we go. That was just a test. Okay, so not quite sure how to change the color here, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll just go back to here and we'll just go, okay, so this is going to go past and this is future. Now, where can change happen? Past, present, or future?
Present.
Present only. Okay, so we're going to just put a big N here for now, and that's it. But if people are talking to you in past and future, and there is no now connected to this, this is how they perceive their now. And when John was talking about perception earlier, this is one of the key points here, is people will collapse past and future into their present. They'll give you excuses as to why things cannot be done moving forward based on past stuff, or I've seen this problem before and I know we're facing it again. Where's the present in that statement or in that statement of a problem? There isn't one. If you interject with a simple problem, with a simple question, and what's that question, John? What do you think that question is going to be?
What might I do differently right now?
That's it. You got it. What might I do differently right now? And that simple question now sucks that present right up into that spot here. And we now have a now that didn't exist before in that person's mind. As we've gone through before, yeah, this is actually going to work. Ta-da, I found out how to change colors. Yay.
You're an artist.
I am, and not a very good one. But my point being here is being able to draw that now up into the present means that we can literally split the past from the future and cause them to get resourceful. And we can only do that by asking questions and being able to ask the question, what might I do differently right now? Is the question that needs to be asked. So that's how we get things moving. And we then can actually transform ourselves in that moment by literally saying, what might I need to do differently right now? Where might I need to go to acquire the skills right now? What might I need to do to, or who might I need to ask to get myself more resourceful right now? All of those are questions that come into that. Okay, does that make sense? Does anybody on the panel here have any questions or comments about that? Make sense?
I think it's
Okay.
great. I mean, not even self. When you ask that very question of somebody else that's in the why state or past future, it brings them right back to now.
Yep, it does.
When you're being
It just shatters that whole thing. So it's one of those great questions that I figured out decades ago, and it never grows old. It's like so effective. It's unbelievable. So, and you can ask yourself the same question. What might I need to do differently right now? Again, the other versions of it is who and where are the other ones, because who do I need to talk to? Who could provide me with different information right now gets me resourceful when I don't know who to go to or what to do. And that's actually the question that I asked a few years ago. And it got me into the whole idea of learning that I needed to learn online marketing skills. And that was the breakthrough moment for me that started changing my life. And then moving forward, where do I need to go? Well, again, who is the education? Where do I need to go to get it? And those are the pieces of the puzzle. We don't always have all the answers, but it's not like we can't figure them out. And we can find out where to go and who to talk to and figure out what do I need to do next. And time has got nothing to do with the ability to change. The acquisition of behaviors does have something to do with time. You have to practice them to some degree, but mostly you just have to start using them. And the faster you start using them, the more likely we are going to be able to move forward with what we need to move forward with, and the change starts happening. Okay. John, does that make sense? What specifically works for you with that?
Yes. What was just coming up for me as you were saying that was the internal shift that happens when I just start asking those questions. So, where might I look? What don't I know here? I mean, just even identifying the gap and then starting to think about, okay, where could I maybe look for an answer? Even if it's, just wild guessing, it's still more resourceful than sitting there stuck saying,
absolutely,
well, I can't do it.
Yeah. And Beth has a really good, wow, never thought how now gets left out. And she's absolutely spot on. So many of us, this is when I was doing life skills student groups, the biggest, most common issue that I found with most people in stuck states, and this still applies to my clients too. And these are, some of them are multimillionaires. They still leave the now out of their situation, and they don't get resourceful in the now. They're resourceful people, but they look to figure out where to go and when can I do this and how can I coordinate this? What might I do right now? Who can I ask? When can I get this done? And how can I get this done now? And what might I do differently right now? And that changes everything. And the speed, the incremental speed of change starts ratcheting up as a result of that whole piece. So that's a huge piece. Thanks, John. Colin, any comments?
I've used it in myself. I've used it to sort of influence others around me. And it's every single time I ask it of myself or somebody else, it pulls them right out of that stuck state, myself included. It's amazing. Probably one of the most important things that I've ever learned from you.
Yep, super cool. Jennifer, any comments, thoughts?
I just thought that it was really interesting to pay attention to the time tense in language. Like, I don't think that that's something that I've ever listened for in somebody else. And I think that's going to be really useful.
It will be. You'll start noticing a whole lot of stuff with that
Yeah.
one. And you can actually notice it with yourself too, because you'll notice when you get into stuck state that you're not in the present. You're either past or future. And if you're in the future and you're stuck, you're usually in the future stuck about something you think is going to happen to you based on what has happened to you in your past. So you're in that loop of a past future with no now in it.
Do people more commonly live or be in the future or more commonly in the past, or is it just always a loop?
It tends on their, it's so many things, but upbringing, family, current life situation, people that they're hanging out with, how resourceful are they? It tends to come into habit patterns of their language, and these are subconscious. So if you're around people that have got stuck states that are frequently making excuses and are in whys and are stuck, then they'll be in that past future gap. And they'll be leaning one way or the other, depending on how proactive they believe they are. And the funny thing is, you can have people that think that they're really proactive and are frequently proactive, but not really super effective in this area. And they're leaning heavily towards the future, but they don't have a now to get going in. Yeah. And it's just hilarious when you point that out to them and they go, oh my God, you're right. Okay, I could do this. And they're also tend to be pretty proactive people. So once they get it, it's like they have this, it's like dumping a load of ants on them. Their skin is crawling and they have to get moving. They just have to move at that point. And they were so stuck prior to it, like seconds before. And then they just, boom, they're like got shot out of a gun that they have to move that fast. It's amazing. Other people in the past, they're stuck there, they're stuck there, they're stuck there, and they keep on bringing up all these past things. And what might you do about it differently right now? It takes them a lot longer to get moving, but you stay consistent with the language pattern and bring them to now and go right now, right now. And some people need that language of saying it to themselves, saying it to other people, and going right now. Because I didn't get into the different sizes of nows, but some people's nows are that snap of the finger is the existence of their now. Other people, and most people, it's like, okay, when's our now here? Collectively, either when I asked the last question of you or when we started the webinar. Those are two sizes of nows that, since we started the webinar, that's a good size of the now. Other times it's like since we last engaged on the panel is the size of your now. So nows are very flexible. They change in size. I've got a really quick story here. The largest now I've ever run into was two people. But the one that's sort of funny was a very, very high-end CFO, accountant, but CFO of a corporation. And his wife, I taught him about the size of his now. And he went, man, Blair, that explains so much stuff. My wife always dumps, like I am the busiest doing month-end stuff every month. She does this to me. It just drives me nuts, and, she has all of the things that she wants to have done and accomplished now is like at the end of the month. But my month is now, because I do everything right now. And when the 31st hits or the 30th or the 28th, whatever that thing at 12 o'clock, it's a new now. That's how I've trained myself in my life. And that's how my wife now treats me to get things done, is she loads things up on the 28th, 29th, 30th, and so that I get it done for the first. She always makes it so exhausting. I hate that, but I get how she's thinking now. I never thought. It was hilarious. It was hilarious. He had such a breakthrough, and it just drove him batty. And he realized that he'd trained himself to view now in a 30-day chunk. And that was the second person in my lifetime that I'd ever seen anybody have a now in a 30-day chunk, because I had to use right now to get them into the moment and snap my fingers. No, actually clap my hands and do the clap. It needed to be that, it needed to be louder, and it needed to be 3 right nows in a row. And he finally woke up, because it was just not there for him until that happened. And then it was eureka. Somebody turned on the now button in his, like the right now button in his life. And yeah, it just transformed him. And he went, oh my God, this has created all kinds of issues for me. And it just was a catastrophic event for him that was not positive and very positive all at the same time. It was huge. Yeah, it was also hilarious for me. So I've had a good chuckle over that over the years of that one. So, and he changed his behavior, and actually reported back about 60 days afterwards, about 2 months afterwards, he phoned me up and said, Blair, my marriage is a whole lot better because of that. Thank you. So my wife sends her regards. So she has a new husband who can get things done a little sooner than right now. Anyway, that was that. Trevor, anybody, any other comments here?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Any other questions here? I'd say the majority function is past future, mass consciousness level. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Any other, people were talking about the temperature. Yeah, it is minus 11 here, Celsius. It's cold here. So anyway, just flipping. I don't see any questions here that are current that we need to deal with, unless you do, Trevor.
No, I don't think there was any questions that we missed.
Oh, and 78 degrees. Shut up, Dwayne. Sorry, that's said with love, but it's cold here. And ha ha ha. Yeah, Tammy, right. Thanks so much. Rubbing it in. I was supposed to be in the warm, but I got sick. So anyway, but I'm here as a result. So let's wrap this puppy up. We're 3 minutes to the top of the hour here.
Okay. I'll just share again, if you guys don't mind. I think you can probably see my screen now, hopefully.
Yeah, you can. I can.
Yes. So this is what I was mentioning at the beginning of the webinar. If you just go to rewiringthemind.com, it'll bring you to this page. If you click any of the big blue buttons to buy the online course, it'll take you to the bottom where there's an order form. We've got both a $497 option as well as a payment plan option. It ends up being a little bit more, but if you want a payment plan option, you can do that as well. And that piece that I was talking about, I'm just going to get this out of the way. If you're interested in becoming an affiliate, is right down here. So you click on that button, and then it should bring you to a form to basically sign up as an affiliate if you're interested in doing that. Any questions about that, guys? Let us know. You can contact me via email. There's some information on the course on this page, and we'll be.
Just go back to that one for a moment there. I just wanted to.
This?
Yeah, that one there.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got the 27 videos there that are all broken out there. And you can see the day one videos. Each one of these little gray buttons is a video. And then that's the start of the video there. We have the MP3 audios and the key action steps for homework. And that really is effective. It ties back into the manual there that you get at the top. Like there's another thing, resources that you download right off the top and goes right into the 211 page manual. But the key action steps are actually really effective for how to take action and to start bringing this stuff into your life so that you can apply it to your life, your way. And then we have this so that if you have questions about that, always please feel free to come on in and ask us questions or ask me questions about this. And we'll be thrilled to help you guys out with this stuff.
Well, I think that's it from from us, I was going to say for me, but you just finished it off there. So from us, that's it from us. If there was anything else anybody else wanted to add, otherwise, I think we could.
Jennifer.
Oh, Jennifer's got her hand.
I just have one clarifying question. You had said that you had 10 points that you were going to talk about, and this was the first one. Is there like a title to this or something, just so that I can?
10 beliefs that can make anyone highly successful.
Right. So what was this belief?
Oh, this belief is time has nothing to do with change.
Time has nothing to do with change.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking that, Jeff.
So we can actually make this one the title of Time Has Got Nothing to Do with Change of this episode.
Oh no, I already named it. I'm gonna have to go back and rename it.
Oh, yeah.
It's doable. Okay.
Okay.
Well, if there wasn't anything else, I think we'll end it there. Thanks for coming out, guys, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
You guys take care.
I miss all you guys.
Yeah.
Wait. Nice to meet you, Jennifer.
Take care.
You too. Bye, Colin. Bye, Blair.
See you guys.
Nice to see you.
Great webinar. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. Jump on earlier next time, Jamie. You can be on the panelist again. And anybody else who wants to. Okay. Talk to you guys. See you next week. Bye for now.
Bye.